Imagine one of the most famous podcast hosts in the world, someone known for talking with scientists, comedians, philosophers, and even astronauts, suddenly declaring, "I'm sticking with Jesus." Yes, Joe Rogan, the man who questions everything from UFOs to psychedelics, surprised millions of fans when he said he believed the resurrection of Jesus might actually make more sense than the Big Bang Theory itself. But why would Rogan, a man known for skepticism and curiosity, lean toward Jesus in this debate?
To understand why this moment matters, you first need to know who Joe Rogan is in the cultural landscape. He isn't just a comedian or UFC commentator. Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, is one of the most powerful platforms in the world. Millions of listeners tune in daily to hear his unfiltered conversations. What makes Rogan unique is his willingness to hear every perspective, from leading scientists and professors to mystics, spiritual leaders, and even conspiracy theorists. So when Rogan makes a strong statement, people listen, they debate it, they clip it, they share it, which is exactly what happened when he brought up Jesus in a conversation that started not with religion, but with the Big Bang. The discussion began with a question: how did everything begin? Science offers the Big Bang Theory, the idea that the entire universe expanded from an unimaginably small point 13.8 billion years ago. It's the mainstream scientific explanation for the origin of space, time, and matter. But here's where Rogan's curiosity took a sharp turn. He compared the Big Bang to the story of Jesus' resurrection. Rogan quoted ethnobotanist Terence McKenna, who once said, "Science asks you to accept one miracle, that all matter in the universe sprang from nothing in a single instant. Religion asks you to accept one miracle, that Jesus rose from the dead." And Rogan, in that moment, sided with Jesus. He said, "I'm sticking with Jesus." For millions, this was shocking. Why would Rogan, who often questions religious institutions, lean toward Christianity's most extraordinary claim? Now, before we assume Rogan suddenly converted or became a preacher, let's look closer. What he likely meant was this: both science and religion require you to believe in something extraordinary. The Big Bang asks you to accept that everything, galaxies, stars, and even us, came from absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Christianity asks you to believe one extraordinary event, the resurrection of Jesus. To Rogan, both are miracles in their own way, and he seemed to say that if he had to pick between the two, the resurrection felt like the more human, relatable miracle to believe in. So why did this go viral? Because Rogan has always been a kind of cultural referee. He doesn't belong to one camp. He's not a scientist. He's not a priest. He's an in-between figure, the everyman who asks the questions we're all thinking. When he said he was sticking with Jesus, it sounded like a line in the sand, and the internet responded exactly how you'd expect. Clips went viral. Some Christians celebrated, saying this was proof even Rogan was opening his eyes to faith. Others mocked it, calling it a cheap comparison. Scientists and atheists pushed back, saying Rogan was ignoring decades of cosmology. Love him or hate him, Rogan had sparked one of the oldest debates in human history, with a single sentence. But let's zoom out. Why does this matter beyond just one podcast moment? Because the tension between science and religion has been at the center of human thought for centuries. Galileo was put on trial for suggesting the Earth revolved around the sun. Darwin's theory of evolution was ridiculed when first introduced, and even today the clash continues. On one side, science demands evidence, data, and observation. On the other, faith asks for trust in the unseen. Rogan's comment reminded everyone that at the core, both ask us to accept something bigger than ourselves. And that's where the curiosity lives. Could it be that science and faith aren't enemies, but two different ways of trying to explain the same mystery? This wasn't the first time Rogan touched on spiritual or religious ideas. He's discussed near-death experiences, psychedelics opening spiritual doors, and even the possibility that consciousness exists beyond the body. While he doesn't call himself religious, he often admits he's fascinated by mysteries science hasn't fully explained. So when he said, "I'm sticking with Jesus," it fit his larger pattern. Exploring bold, uncomfortable ideas, not necessarily declaring absolute belief. At the end of the day, Joe Rogan's statement isn't really about choosing religion over science, it's about choosing curiosity over certainty. By saying he'd stick with Jesus, Rogan reminded millions that belief, whether in physics or in faith, always involves a leap beyond what we can fully prove. And maybe that's the real reason this went viral. Because deep down, whether we're scientists, believers, or skeptics, we all wrestle with the same question. Which miracle do we believe in?